Hello, everyone. My name is Rosalia. I am so excited to welcome the lovely Katie to our Retreat Lab podcast. Katie, will you do a quick and beautiful introduction of yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for having me. My name is Katie. I am in Salt Lake City, Utah, is where I live and mainly practice from. So in Salt Lake, I started as a yoga instructor, and that was over 10 years ago. And then since then, it's kind of evolved. I've evolved into like what I just call myself now as a somatic practitioner. Um, I now teach yoga, breath work. I do sound healing, sound therapy, also a modality that it's new to me and I'm really excited about. It's called TRE, which is tension and trauma releasing exercises. Yeah, and I just over the years have really kind of evolved into what I want to offer and what I want to create, and part of that has been my retreats. A big part of like my business and also just my life is running these international retreats, or I do some in the States also, but most of them are international. And that's like part of my passion is just international travel. So I kind of have used retreats as a way to explore the world with a community that is just I personally think it's the best way to vacation because you're getting like the perfect balance between like mindfulness and connection to self, to each other. Like the container that a retreat creates is just really unique and special, I think. And then also it allows space, in my retreats at least, like every retreat is different, but most of mine, there's like plenty of free time to kind of do your own thing and explore whatever you want to. And yeah, so I don't know. I could go on and on, but that's kind of it in a nutshell. Yeah, that's me.
Loved officially getting to meet you while you were on site just a few weeks ago. I know we've been working together for several months now, so it was such a pleasure actually being able to watch it all materialize in person. Can you tell us a little bit about how in the heck you found yourself in El Salvador? It feels like from Salt Lake City to El Salvador is like kind of a journey. You know, it's not like you just land in El Salvador.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'll just say it. Whoever is doing the marketing for Mizata is not doing a bad job. I just got at this point, because I've been doing retreats like I think like 8 years now. And in the beginning it was like it's like a slow grind getting like honestly the reputation that like she can actually pull this thing off. Like people are giving me a decent amount of money and trusting me that like they're going to show up and there's going to be a bed for them to sleep in and a like schedule for them to fall, they're putting a lot. And
Yeah.
in the beginning, I didn't have that, but now that I've done them for a few years successfully, I'm getting people like reaching out to me more and more. So that's kind of what happened with Mizata is you guys emailed me, and I keep saying I'm gonna tone down the international retreats. Like I'm gonna stop doing the international ones because maybe opening up to like having a baby. But then I get these destinations that they're like, look at this place and look at what you get and I'm all, maybe just one more, maybe just one more. So that's kind of what happened with El Salvador was like, I got the first email and I'm like, I don't know El Salvador. I don't know, like, no. And it just kind of passed by, and then another one and I'm like, and then another one. And I think, I don't know, you guys might have offered like a little some like perk. And I'm like, okay, I'll at least take a look. I'll at least click on like, what is this place? And then I started like looking at your guys' website. And then I like looked up. I was like, oh my, what is this place? I'm like, okay, well, I'll do a meeting with Amanda. And then from there, yeah, that's kind of how it evolved.
Yeah.
Like I said, I kind of use my retreats as a way to explore the world without like breaking the bank on my end. And now, most of the time, being able to make a little bit of a profit. So it's part of my business. So yeah, like El Salvador was a place I'd never been before. It was a place I didn't know much about, to be honest. And like the safety of it has really shifted over the past few years. So I felt comfortable taking a group there and talking a group into going there. So yeah, and Mizata was like, honestly, the most pleasant surprise ever. Like I really was a little bit like, please, showing up with crossed fingers. And I was like, okay, this will do. Like, this is
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God, amazing. Well, I know for a fact that it was very clear to me that you were very protective of what you built. And then when I'd seen your community on site, like, some of the women that were with you, they had a shirt that said like Thailand, Katie Schiffgen Retreat 2020. And like, I mean, the fact that one, she's wearing the shirt. Two, it was several years ago. Like I think that's huge. Like that's an element to not only what you'd done, but also that
Thank you.
you replicated, and then also that they came back. And not just like to the other side of the world, but also now to another country that is objectively like not the first place that people are like, I love it. Like we're not Bali, we're not Tulum, like it's El Salvador, which people have to be convinced. And so, I really applaud you for your ability to take that leap and then also have that community that's willing to say, and where else are we going? So I think that that's really huge, and also just want to applaud you for your ability to do the thing that's the path less traveled per se. One of the things that you did, I think it might be, if I'm remembering, an element to something that you do in your personal life, but the tie-dye event, I hadn't actually seen anyone do this since I'd been here. What made that something that you really, really needed to do?
Well, I thought it was like I thought it was something people did. Like I thought it was on like the sheet. I'm like, right? Wasn't it? I
It's
don't know.
definitely a thing that we do, but it isn't
But just
something that
not.
people are like, this is, I have to do this.
Okay.
Yeah. For you, it's like, I
Okay.
have to do this. This is like a
Well,
thing.
I just like for me personally, I guess like in the beginning of my retreat, uh kind of journey, it wouldn't have been that big of a deal. But I feel like over the years, like I've said, I've kind of evolved into what I feel like is more of a somatic practitioner, not to say just a yoga instructor, but like I wanted to feel like a full experience of like movement and all these different ways of exploring creativity, really, and like just
Got it.
expression. And so
Yeah.
on all of my retreats, I always include some sort of like creative activity, a craft, and sometimes it's just something that I bring myself and I like, it's a little off. It doesn't have to be anything. A thing I have done a lot, which I actually love, is just rock painting, like finding rocks in whatever environment we're in. And then I have these paint pens that people make the cutest rocks, and especially like the ones that aren't artists, they're always
Got
the
it.
cutest ones. So it's just
Wow.
like it's a kind of form of therapy, I think. And like anything that involves just right brain activity where you're turning off the thinking, talking, judging mind and just like exploring, yeah, essentially creativity and expression is something that I want people to experience when they're like with me on these experiences, because I do feel like at home a lot of them just come to my yoga classes, or they've not even come. Some people are retreat people. They don't even come to classes at home, but they'll come to retreats. Like it's just like all the different types of people I'm getting are so they're quite diverse, I think, but they're all willing to just be open and
Mm.
try new things. So like I just love bringing things in that honestly
Yeah.
facilitate like a child like
Yeah.
playfulness, like
Mm.
tie-dyeing or like painting rocks or whatever it may be. So yeah.
Or acro. I had the pleasure of
Yeah.
joining your group for the acro workshop, and that was really, really lovely. I had the amazing privilege of being able to lift some of the older women in your group and seeing like that aha moment. And, they were like, this is something. What did one of the women say? She said, I was the first PE teacher to bring yoga to PE classes in Salt Lake City. And I was like this is like history in motion, and she was like, I want to bring this to my grandchildren. And so I want to talk to you a little bit about that. Talk to me more about who your community is. How did they find you, and what, like, just tell me, give me the full scope.
Okay. I do feel like I have like a very like broad spectrum of people. Like there are 20-year-olds and there are 79-year-olds. Actually, I think I had an 83-year-old woman once, and she was amazing. She actually signed up for El Salvador, and then her like daughter told her she couldn't come because she wasn't close enough to a hospital or something. And I was like, okay, Judy, maybe that's like I hadn't been, so I'm like, okay, maybe that's okay. But yeah, I have quite a like broad spectrum of people. My demographic is quite diverse, for at least for Utah, I think, and especially as far as age goes. So yeah, Jane is who you're referring to, the PE teacher. She has come on like 8 retreats now. So she's been she's been coming to my classes like for I don't know, like 9 years, forever, and she's just kind of become one of my people. And she calls me her angel Katie because she had a baby whose name was Katie, and so she's like, you're my angel on earth, you're my Katie angel. Like she just like loves me, and she's like, where are you? She wants to just everything I do, if she can do it, she'll come. But also she is like badass. She actually calls her group of women that like those older like group of older women that she just honestly kind of takes under her wing, like whoever comes, she's like, yeah, let me show you the way. But she calls them themselves they call the old bags, meaning badass grandmas. But so I just love so much that like I have that demographic and that age group, because so many times I've heard it like said so many times when people look at my retreats or just even come to my classes and look at me because I look younger. They're like, oh, I'm probably too old to come on one of your retreats. Oh, I'm probably just too old. And I'm like, no, like you are not at all. And I actually love what you bring, because it makes it feel different than just like going on a vacation with a bunch of your friends, because you're going on a vacation with all these people that you probably maybe wouldn't actually, but they bring so much different like perspective and vibrancy and just like, yeah, I love it so much. And then I don't know if Amanda told you, and what you might be also referring to is like in Utah, we have a lot of us, like the Mormons. So I'm no longer Mormon. I don't know if you were referring to this at all. I'm not part of the Mormon church anymore, but I grew up in it and only left when I was 21, and I'm 37 now. It's been like a deconstruction process, very slow, in which I feel at this point like is part of kind of like what sorry, my because I'm like, it feels so like personal and also like special, because I do feel like I've made it, like what was at one point something that felt really painful for me has become like my purpose, in that like I think I offer a space where people who have left the Mormon church, it's really actually difficult, because when you're part of it, that's your community. That's all you know. Like that's your reality, that's your community. So you are done and you're like floating around in outer space, like who am I? Like where do I belong? What is even? So like I love when I can be like a kind of like a safe landing pad for those who are going through a faith transition or have come out the other end or are on the cusp of like still in it, but also like thinking they want, and I'm just like, that's it. And it's taken me a long time to get to like a place where I feel comfortable enough to be authentic in this, because for a long time I was like still in a people pleaser. Like I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. Like if they don't have any bad intentions, nobody like, so, and like my in-laws are still very, very much a part of the Mormon church. So it's like they see me in a way that I don't feel understood, and I probably never will. And I used to want to like change that and be like, no, I'm good. Like, look at like, this is good. And now I'm like, okay, it's okay. Like they can have their way and I can show up as me, and I don't need their approval, their validation. If I hurt their feelings, it's okay. They get to process that, and so do I, and I get to figure out what boundaries need to be. Like, it's just been a very interesting journey in learning to show up as who I am without worrying about. It's scary in this community because there is the majority. It's a red state. Like, it's like a Mormon conservative, and it's like, hard to find your people. It takes time, and like a lot of people feel, I think, and it's really sad, like a really sense of like loneliness, and it's hard. So I really, really love feeling like the people in my spaces, it's really like the more I have become authentically me, the more my
Yeah.
people have found me. And then I've had to do so much less because they're just doing it themselves now. They're just like creating this amazing, safe, nurturing, connecting, creative container where they're doing most of the work and I just get to like be part of the fun, essentially, is how it feels. And so it's been like a lot of my own personal development work and like reconfiguring what I'm doing with my business. But I finally feel like this, like El Salvador honestly was very rejuvenating for my retreat. Like the part of me that runs retreats, because I've had some rough experiences.
Wow.
But El Salvador, I was like, okay, this is why I love this. This is why I do this. And that group was awesome. And like, there's always things I can't control. There always are like variables that are out of my control. But it felt like part of it is because I've become like a lot more intentional and like, I don't know, upfront in the way I set up the containers and the expectations of the people attending, where I feel like in the past, it used to feel like everyone just kind of shows up and then I'm like, oh my gosh, it's kind of out of control here. Like, wait, like come back here, you know, like, so I've learned how to facilitate that also in a way that doesn't feel like because part of I don't want to feel like bossy. I don't want to feel like I'm controlling it. I just want to feel like it's like some invisible force is just running it, you know, like that's how I wanted to feel. So I feel like it's been like a journey of figuring it out, but El Salvador was like, oh man, this feels so good. So that was nice.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and thank you for sharing. I mean, I just want to touch on that last bit that you said. I don't want to feel bossy, but like that like bossiness, can I just like reflect that back to you as like the container that you created for people to become authentically themselves, right? I don't know if I shared this with you, but I'm from Tennessee, and some of the other hosts that I've had the pleasure of interviewing, they're also from Southern conservative states, and they've also connected to their own authentic selves, and they found safety in El Salvador. So it's kind of like a trend that we're seeing, which is also something to celebrate. But they have to become protectors of their spaces because not many people have the privilege of knowing what authenticity feels like. And so they are beacons of their communities. And that's why people come to these spaces. And so that's what you're doing for your community. And I can see that, you know, I can see that for your bags and also for the women and for the men who are kind of unraveling that programming, unraveling their storylines. And maybe it's not necessarily, I'm going to say like, because I'm not from the Mormon community, but I am from a conservative Christian background. So maybe it is from Mormonism, maybe it's a sexuality, maybe it's another form of identification that they're unraveling, and then they're walking down a path of who am I alongside you, whether it's through practice or through travel or through other forms. I'd love to understand a little bit about what TRE is, because I wasn't able to join you on any of your practices, but maybe there's another thing that you're doing, whether it's through painting. Was that your group where you guys were painting the coconut shells as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
We still have them. They're like sitting on top of the coffee bar.
Wait, I want to show you something. Hang on, I'm going to grab this 1 second. Look at this. Okay, I took this home. It was a palm frond from the beach, right? And I put it in my suitcase. I cut off the pieces and I put it in my suitcase. And it's like a chakapa rattle. Do you know what a chakapa rattle?
No. I should. I don't.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, sorry. Do you know what a chakapa rattle is? Did you say?
No. No.
It's just like a sound, because I do like sound baths.
Yeah.
And so it's just like a sound tool, and they use them in some ceremonial spaces. But I have one that I purchased, but they're like $100. And I was like, I'm going to take these home and I make my own. And it's amazing. I love it so much.
Amazing.
So, yeah, I just like doing like anything that is just creative and expressive, and yeah.
And I think that's, I think that's just like the most fascinating thing is like you've become like this like warrior, this warrior of the space that you've created, it's and I think that's why people are committed to your space back. I'm honestly just like in awe because of course I don't know much about the Mormon community, but the Mormon community is kind of going trending on TikTok. It has a few reality TV shows. There's a Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. Mormonism is having its moment in pop culture at the moment. So I have a few references, but I think the one thing that I have stuck in my mind is at the end of the acro class, I had to step outside to work with another client. And I heard this like rumbling of laughter from the reception, which is like, 30 feet away from the shala. And this like, huge demographic of different ages of women that you brought together for this session that wasn't planned before. Just a few days before, you're like, we're doing it. You met the acro teachers. You're like, this is what we're doing. And you were able to get women to come together for 90 minutes. And the next thing you know, everyone is just laughing. And that's what you said, I want to create spaces to find this like childlike sense of play and getting people to laugh again. And what I know about conservative religion is often we don't feel that safety to laugh, like a deep belly laughter, That is like the most powerful thing. That is a gift. And I really, really celebrate that because also like when we go on retreat, like we don't necessarily set the intention of like, may I find laughter? May we find freedom to feel that sense of openness, But whatever it was that you did that over the course of those 5 days that we were together by that point, you created that. You did that, And I was able to hear it from many, many feet away, Vibration.
Well, thank you. Yeah. It's really been rewarding, like to slowly just feel like it's really been a reflection, as you probably know, like what as above, so below, like as I've done my own self, like my own inner healing through all these different modalities that are so body based and connecting back to emotions, a lot of suppression, a lot of suppressed emotions and sexuality in the Mormon church. And so it's been a journey for me coming back into my body and connecting back to my sexuality and my femininity, and like so many different modalities and tools and teachers have shaped me, I feel. And so for me, I'm just, by becoming who I am, I don't feel like I lead. Once I'm there, like I am herding cats for sure. I have to be like, the masculine definitely has to be happening. But I also feel like once I get everyone into like, okay, we're here, then I can just be part of it and almost like lead by example rather than like, I guess what I feel like can be bossing people around. I'm like, no, now I can just be me and they will follow my example, where it's taken me a while to figure that out. And it's just been kind of of like learning how to create a container that feels safe and that feels like people can act like kids in a responsible and respectful way. TRE, I would love to say a little bit about it if you'd like to hear. It's really cool,
yes,
I think.
Please tell me. And what's also so funny was like when we were talking about acro, it was like, we are like trauma-informed teachers, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, yeah. And there's like a yes and of course, like you obviously are trauma-informed as well. So I'm over here like, I feel like an idiot. Tell me everything you know about TRE.
No, not at all. Not at all. No, there's just so much in like partnering and touching another human that I just am like, anything goes. Okay, anyway, TRE, it's called, so it stands for Trauma and Tension Releasing Exercises. And I only just discovered it last year, and I've been now getting certified in it since last June. I just did my teacher is in Italy, so she's done like 3 in-person intensive weekend trainings, and then in between we do Zoom sessions and like supervised sessions where I'm facilitating, she's watching me, yada yada. So I'm like this close to being officially certified, and I'm super excited. But in the meantime, I've been sharing it with like those who are in my community and wanting to try it. So why I love it so much is because I obviously also, as I've said, teach yoga and facilitate breath work. if you've done breath work, or if people listening are familiar with breath work, then you already know what I'm going to say. Maybe the breath work like that I'm talking about is not like yoga pranayama exercises. It's from the lineage of holotropic breath work. So it's like one type of breath that you do for a very long time, which is intended to facilitate, can be a very transformative experience in just one session. It can be very therapeutic. I call it therapeutic breathwork rather than functional breathwork. So that's part of what I offer, and I love, love, love that. But breathwork can also be scary. It can also be cathartic, like very like big releases, crying, screaming, which can feel like too much for a lot of people. People who have really like deep trauma, it's really just scary to be in your body at all. So why I'm excited about TRE is because it is something that like you can be fully like conscious of. Like you don't have to go inside. You don't have to close your eyes and feel into your body and feel your breath. You can literally watch TV while you're doing it. Like you can, it's kind of like, in my opinion, it's kind of like a nervous system hack where it just hacks your mind and just like gets your body to do what it's innately, instinctually, primally meant to do. So this will fascinate you. I'll just give you like the quickest nutshell description if you're open. Is that cool? Okay, so the guy who developed it, his name is David Berceli. He's an Italian, like somatic therapist of some sort, bioenergetics therapist. And he was working in like war zones for over 20 years and trying to do like one-on-one work with people in these very, very scary places that literally bombings are happening and they're getting attacked and like very scary things, trying to work with people to just like heal the trauma, but also be able to just regulate in their everyday lives in these really scary places. As he's living here and as he's also experiencing these really scary situations, he is just finding himself like ill-equipped. Like the tools he already has are not like he can't be effective enough. He can only work one-on-one. There's only so many one-on-one sessions you can do through the day. He wanted to give them something that could work for a lot of people at once, and also a tool that once he left them, they could continue to use. So it's not like I can help you when I'm here, when I'm gone, good luck, you know? So he started just observing and researching everything he was seeing. And he observed two main things that led him to the development of TRE. So the first thing he observed is that when something scary would happen, like a bombing, everybody, no matter who you are, where you're from, what your religious background is, how old you are, you just automatically, your body just curls in, goes into like fetal position, protects itself. You don't think, there's a bomb. What should I do? I guess I'll do that. Like your body just does it. It's genetically encoded. And then he also observed, secondly, that in these really scary situations, the children under 6 or 7 years old would be shaky and their body would be tremoring. And the adults, they would not. And they would also probably be telling the kids, like, it's okay, it's okay. And they would do it after the bombing had stopped. And they'd be like, it's over, it's okay, you can stop shaking, it's okay, everything's okay. So he was like, this is so interesting. So he came up with this theory that basically, just as we have this genetically encoded mechanism inside of us to contract when we are protecting ourselves, when we are under threat, when we are not safe, we also have a genetically encoded mechanism. We ought to, you would think, that is programmed when we are safe, when we are not under threat, to let go, to release. And he's like, I think it has something to do with that shaking. So he basically figured out a way to kind of turn on the release mechanism in the body that is releasing trauma, tension, stress, whatever you want to call it. And it induces what he calls neurogenic tremors. So it's like, sometimes it looks like really big shaking on the outside of the body, and sometimes it's very little shaking on the outside, but you feel almost like these wave-like vibrations kind of going. Like people feel them in all different ways, but it's kind of the craziest thing because it's like 7 very simple exercises, nothing you've not done before. It's like calf raises. It's like nothing weird at all. You do 7 exercises, you lay on the ground with your feet on the ground, knees bent, and the mechanism, as long as you feel safe, that's the number one thing. So like nothing that we do is supposed to stress you out. It's not cathartic. It's not scary. It's like I said, you could be watching TV while we could be having this podcast and I could be doing it right now. Like it's so accessible and gentle. So you just lay on the ground and your body just does whatever it needs to do, and you don't have to like control anything. You just basically let it shake. If it scares people and they feel unsafe, there's a way to turn it off. There's a way to rest. Yeah, it's like, I went to the first module of this weekend training just with the intention of taking the first module for my own learning, not to get certified. Just, there was the option of just doing the one. And I'm like, I'll just do that. It was $500. She was coming to the studio I teach at. So I'm like, I like traveling teachers. I'll try it. And when I tried it, I was like, oh, I'm doing this thing. So it's cool. I'm like super excited to have it as a tool that I can offer.
But this is so crazy. And also, like, as somebody who, facilitates pranayama, but nothing like that deep. And of course, I've had my interest in, goodness, it's slipping my mind.
Reiki?
The cold exposure.
Wim Hof?
Wim Hof, yeah. That was like, I've completely forgot. Breath work, simple stuff. But I think like really, really intensive breath work, like holotropic breathing is super interesting to me. I've never heard of this before, but the idea of making it less scary, like removing the concept of, I shouldn't say fear, because breath work is not scary, but when you see media around it, there's sweating, there's like these really like deep, like you use the word cathartic, these really like deep moving experiences around it, but removing that and making it more normalized is really interesting, really enticing. What made you want to take it further? Like what made it more interesting for you?
Well, so the breathwork or the TRE, both.
Or is that one and the same, or
No,
they're different things?
No, completely different. Yes. So breathwork is completely different. TRE is completely different. So I have facilitated breathwork for years, and I do like breathwork teacher trainings now. And yeah,
wait, so what you explained to me, that's TRE.
That's TRE. What I said at first, like breathwork can be like what I teach, holotropic breathwork. It can be scary. Like you're like, it's not scary, but for some people it can be, because just being in your body is scary. Like feeling anything in your body is scary. So like for people who are just like, they close their eyes and go into their body and they're like, no, thank you. Then I'm like, TRE, so amazing, because you don't have to be able to do that. You can just be completely present and conscious in this like outer world, and your body will do the thing it needs to. And like the most common reaction I see in people as I've facilitated this modality TRE is laughter, because people are like weirded out that their body is doing this thing and they can't control it, but they feel completely safe. So
TRE is not breath work. Let me be clear.
No. Sorry. Yeah, if I was not clear, yes. Breathwork is a totally different thing, and TRE is this new modality that I'm now getting certified in with this lady in Italy. In Utah, there's only 2 other providers right now of TRE, so it's exciting. Yeah, because like yoga, as you know, it's very saturated, and like there's like a million different styles, all these different ways, so like I'm like, oh, something new that not everyone already is doing.
Sexy.
So I'm like, I'm excited about this. This is cool. So yeah, it's neat. I'm excited.
Love that. Okay. That's so cool. Okay, so it's not breath work then.
No. If you want me to explain more about what breath work is, I will do that. Would you like?
I know what breath work is, so that's why I was thinking that it was like breath work, but removed the scariness of breath work, because I facilitate breath work and I'm like, oh, there's breath work, but we're like kind of like a trauma-informed approach to breath work, like we're doing breath work, but it's a lot less scary. And I'm like, that's interesting to me.
Yeah.
But I mean, even still, TRE is a way of like getting into our bodies in a trauma-informed way is also interesting to me.
Yeah. It's just a different tool, I think, to get the same result in a lot of ways. Like we're doing the same thing in different ways. Like I will say this. So I facilitated breath work for years before I found TRE. And once I found TRE and I felt this sensation that I talked about. So basically it's like the release mechanism. You get it to kind of, all you're doing with these 7 exercises that you do, you're just kickstarting that release mechanism into gear. So as you kickstart it into gear, so I've been practicing it 2 to 3 times a week since June, because it's part of my certification process. So as I've started to practice on a regular basis, like my body has started to remember, like, this is what we're supposed to be doing. Because Everyone has it. We've just turned it off because it's socially conditioned out of us, because to shake is like, that looks weird. Like if I were to like, so for example, you want to shake when you're in a trauma, like your body, like if you get pulled over by the cops, like your body, it wants to shake. Like everyone, you've heard somebody say like, I was so scared, my legs were shaking, you know, and we don't think anything of that. But if the police pulls you over and you're like, I'm fine, like they're like, something's up here, you know, so we've like turned it off. We're like, everything's fine. And even in the wellness world, we're kind of like taught that we need to regulate ourselves. Like if I feel this, then I need to take some deep breaths and calm myself down. But actually, like the premise of TRE is like your body needs to release, just like an animal needs to release after they go into fight or flight. They need to have like a release, and then they can come back to a regulated state. Essentially, it's like your body, my body at this point has started to remember that. So when I do breath work, a lot of times I will feel my body. If I just put my feet on the ground with my knees bent, it'll do the same thing it does in TRE. I have the same sensations, like those neurogenic tremors start happening. But when in breath work, they used to happen and I didn't know TRE, what I would usually do is just voluntarily start moving and shaking my body, you know? But now I'm like, oh, I'm just going to let my body do this, and I'm just going to keep breathing. So they can be like used, and they can be like thought of as like, you know, different ways of leading to the same kind of, you know, you never want a goal, but like inner, like just kind of reset.
So it's so interesting then. It's almost like your body finds that safety in the shake.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, it's like a reset. So like think of like part of one of the videos we watched for our training, to me was like really cool, I thought. It's like this impala, like a ram, you know, the ram animal. And it's getting chased by some sort of cat, like I don't know, cougar or something. And it is getting chased. Cougar gets it in his mouth, and the ram like plays dead. Like his body even has the mechanism to like it make him smell dead. So he's just like practically, he looks dead, he smells dead. The cat only wants live prey, so he drops him, and he's just like not interested anymore, leaves him. And you watch and you think he is dead. You're like, oh, sad, like he's dead. And then you see him start to do like this little like kind of jerky little shaking, and then it starts to get bigger, and then it starts to get slower and like wavier, and then he like sits up and he's still kind of doing it, and then he's like eating his food that he was probably eating before he got chased, and then he's just like eats his food, stands up, walks off, and he's fine. So that's essentially kind of like the same thing in this modality, like in this theory. Like we are the same way. We've just conditioned ourselves out of it because shaking looks unhealthy, it looks weird, it looks weak, it looks wrong, whatever it may be. Like socially, you don't shake, like that looks bad, but actually we're animals and our bodies do the same thing or want to do the same thing. So yeah, it's a cool thing that I'm super excited about.
And then in your retreat, how often did you guys do TRE?
Just once. So since I'm not technically like, I'm not certified yet, like I'm still getting my last little like supervised sessions and stuff. So I'm allowed to do group sessions, like, or I'm allowed to do sessions like on my own, just like with people who know that I'm going through certification. Like I don't tell them I'm certified. I'm like, I'm going through certification. We're going to try this. If you don't want to try it, and I give them the whole spiel before. So we'll just try it. And a lot of the people that are doing it on my retreats, it's their first time trying it. So it's cool to watch for the first time. It's really fun to watch people's reaction because it's like, again, a lot of laughter. And then if one person starts laughing, the next person is laughing, and then everyone's just like laughing, and they're like, okay guys, deep breath, and like it's fun, like, which is different from breath work, which can be like a big like heavy cathartic thing in a good way, but also not everyone
like allows themselves to release that big. That's it. It's just like it's the allowing, you know, it's the release, which is, I mean, the journey, like the ability to go from point A to point B may be much smaller for people like you and I, but for others, it may be so much longer. And we don't know the people that are in the room with us. Well, maybe for you, if you've been working with them for several years. So.
But I don't know, because only they know, you know, like I don't know. And what I have really learned too is like, our bodies, what I say to people, even in yoga, because there's like the kind of, I don't know, like just some people I think have an idea that a yoga pose, like if you go deeper into it, if you can do a fuller expression, it's always better, right? Or you're always a better yogi, or that's like the goal to be there. But I'm like, a lot of like our bodies are not meant for big changes really quick. They're meant for slow, small changes over time. So like, that's why you practice yoga consistently. You don't go to 2 classes per month and crank your body into these poses and then expect to get anything out of it. Like, and same thing, like if you're just getting deep into the pose for the sake of doing the pose, like you're missing it. Like your body is slow changing over time. Trauma, part of the definition is like too much too fast. So I think sometimes like in breathwork, people can be re-traumatized. That is not the norm, but it can happen because it is a big thing. And if you don't know how to then go out into the world and integrate whatever that was that you received, then that can be overwhelming for people. And then they go back to whatever coping mechanism they had because they're like, I don't know what to do with all this, you know? So it's like, I think just remembering that in all these modalities, slow, gentle over time is like our bodies, like, you know, even for myself, and I don't know what your history is or if you relate with this, but I used to, like, in the Mormon church, it's like success is, it looks like this. It looks like this. It's so obvious on the outside how it looks. And it's like accomplish, do this, you know, get married, have kids, blah, 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 and it like looks like this. But I'm like, it's not even coming. I forgot where I was going. But anyways, it's like inside my body, it's a slow process and it doesn't have to look any certain way. It's like, it's just, I don't know.
It's certainly not linear.
I forgot what I was going. Yeah. Where was I going?
No, it's definitely not linear in terms of like the process.
Where was I going with that? I had such a good thing. I don't know. Checking boxes. I'll say where I was going. Okay. In the Mormon culture, I feel like I was like praised and rewarded for like accomplishing more, I guess. And like my life, if it looked like this, then everyone thought that meant that I was happy, or that meant that I was successful, or that meant that I had done everything right. But I'm like, rest, body. Like your body likes rest. Like it's not bad. Resting, it's hard for me to rest without feeling guilty about resting, you know, or saying no to things that are like, I don't think I can do that, but I want to do it because I want them to think that I want to help them. But, and it's like, it's okay. It's okay. Like to go slow and to not do too much all the time. Like, I don't know. That's just something I've learned.
Well, I love that because I was actually going to say that in order to close this podcast, because this is a podcast for retreat hosts, the one thing that I was going to ask you was if you had any advice for other retreat hosts who were listening to this, and that like actually sounded like the advice, but any other advice that you may have, because for me, I'm also a retreat host. I don't know if you knew that. It would have been to move slow. You know, we all want to have that like raging success, but if there's any other advice that you would like to share to other retreat hosts, I mean, you just have such a beautiful community that you've built and that you are fiercely protective of, but anything that you'd like to share to anyone listening?
Well, thank you. Let's see. I think something that I have picked up, and this is my personal opinion, so take it or leave it, but like allowing, if you're planning a retreat, I don't think free time is a bad thing. I think I overscheduled a lot of things in the beginning. I'm like, we got to do this, we got to do this, we got to do this, we got to wake up at 3 a.m., do the sunrise hike, we got to do this. And like, those things are amazing, like here and there. And then like a routine, like waking up and meditating, having breakfast, doing yoga, and then free time. And that, like, for me, feels like a really good balance, because also things evolve on their own, like acro. And I like to have space, like, oh, let's put an acro in this free afternoon that we have. Otherwise, we wouldn't have had anywhere to put it. Same with I always say it wrong, Temazcal. Temazcal. But yeah, same with that. Like, because I find that a lot of times, if I haven't been to a place, I don't know what's going to be kind of like the magic about the place. And so not overscheduling myself beforehand has benefited me usually, because it leaves space for things to evolve naturally and organically, even within the group. Like we had a writing workshop because somebody there wanted to offer it. We had an acupuncture workshop because somebody there brought her acupuncture needles and offered that. So it was like really, it's just really cool to see how things usually always work out if you trust and just allow space for them. That would be my 2
I
cents.
personally think that's like very advanced advice, you know, that's like advanced retreat host advice to allow the space to like collaborate together, you know, also because it calls in a sense, like the creatives to bring something as well. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Katie, I am so, so grateful to you. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for sharing your community with us. I am in awe of what you've done. Hopefully, we are able to see you before you bring life to this world. But if we don't, may you be incredibly blessed and may you have a beautiful journey towards conceiving. And it is such a pleasure to know you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.